Okay, and as in usual, we start our meditation, any class, we always start by lifting consciousness. And we'll meditate about 10 minutes this morning. And as you drop in to the silence, do your best to lay down the mind and not pay any attention to what it's talking about. And just relax back. Pick up the awareness faculty, not the mind, and relax back into I, and then drop behind I into that vacuum, into that silence, and be still and know. Keep your awareness faculty active, present, moment by moment. Okay. Well, it's an excellent way to start the new year by coming in, and unlike the world who decides to make resolutions that they're never going to do this anymore, and they're going to do that, and they're going to achieve this and achieve that, what we're here to do is to simply look at what worked and what doesn't work for us. What makes us happy, joyous, and free, and what doesn't. And being around who and what and where makes our heart sing, and being around it, not so good. So we learn from that, and we get to go in, and our steps, I break them down into 4 sections, and this is the script steps and the 12 steps. I break them down into 4 simple steps. You may want paper and pen if you're at home. And the 4 categories, they simply are, if you really look at them, let's start with the 12 steps. They break down into the first 3 are the give up, where we absolutely surrender. The first are the give up steps, where we just simply have no more tools left. We just simply can't do it anymore, whether it be give up alcohol, give up the man, give up the fight, give up the whatever it is. We admit complete powerlessness over that. And in that is a recognition that I of my own self haven't been able to do any better than that, given what I came in with this lifetime. So that's the give up steps. And that also represents, in the script steps, the first thing we do is we recognize that script is in gear because we get a glitch, and we simply give up because we move into 100% responsibility for the glitch. And then there we are. Now what? And the first thing the little kid does is say, oh, it must all be my fault. Which is not the case at all, because we find the ignorance that we wrote the script with. So those are the give up. And then we move into what we call the cleanup steps, which in the 12 steps is doing that little inventory, getting it on paper, seeing it in black and white so that the light is shed on it. We call it cleaning up. Let's clean up what didn't work. Let's look at what we need to get rid of, what is working, who in our lives do work, who in our lives don't work, and why. Is it because of the way I'm viewing them? Is it my perception? You know, we get people we sometimes start to avoid. Why am I avoiding them? Because I have a judgment about that person. You know, and in the beginning, many times we just get away from them or cancel them out or amputate them out of our lives. And guess what? They pop up over here in another disguise, dressed up, and they get cleverer and cleverer as we go along until we find the lies that I've been hearing inside. So those are the cleanup steps, and I find that it's the most helpful for me to do it on paper, in black and white, and then in our 5th step, in our 12-step room, what do? We take it to God, ourselves, and one other human being. Now, why is that? Without that, there is no humility. Without getting God, myself, and another human being involved, there is absolutely no humility. It's still Dulcie going to run the show, going to clean it up, going to take care of it. But when I go in before another human being, I have to humble myself enough to listen and see how they turn my perception around in the way that I'm thinking. The same with that 100% responsibility of kid. What do? We write down our 10 things we most never wanted to happen. And what do we do with it? We take it to somebody else. And basically, in the 4th step of the 12 steps, That's what we're doing. We're writing down, you know, what do we resent? What's our resentments? What's our anger? What's our fear? What's our excitement? We write that down, and then we take it to another human being, because right in there is our stinking thinking. And without us going before another person, whether it's the script or the 12, we're not at I of my own self can do nothing about this old way of conditioning. And I love that word. Print it over your chest, conditioning, because no matter who's in your face doing whatever it is they're doing that's unpleasant, it's rubbing up against my conditioning, and their conditioning is all that's acting out there. This is the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful word called impersonalization that Joel gave us, so that no matter what I'm seeing in me that I don't like, it's impersonal. No matter what I'm seeing in you that I don't like, it's impersonal. That person is no more responsible for their behavior than you are for yours. Now, the 12 steps are designed for us to get this up and out, share it with someone else, and in that they show us that we weren't bad, that we simply were raised with wrong thinking. And then we can move into what is called the makeup steps. And in the 12 steps, we go and we make up to others what we took, what we broke, what we misperceived in them. We clean it up, not so much for them, so that we can feel free. You know, the name of my game is I want to be free. I don't want this stuff nagging at me. I don't want to leave this lifetime with any residue that I haven't cleaned up, either in my relationship to another or my relationship to self. Now, the beautiful part of script steps is it takes us to cleaning it up with our kid. Cleaning it up, going back, seeing the lies the kid has believed. Us as an adult then helping that kid understand where it came from and that they're not responsible for it being established. Responsible now, yes, for seeing it, naming it, claiming it, but dumping it. So many people like to name the stuff, claim the stuff, claim the stuff, claim the stuff, go over to this meeting and claim it over there, and call 10 more people and claim it over there. The idea to get free is to name it, claim it, and dump it. What freedom. But the scary thing, freedom is the thing most people long for, whether it be freedom from a relationship, freedom from a job, freedom from your own stinking thinking, freedom from alcohol, freedom from food, freedom from love addiction, whatever it is. But the bottom line is, to achieve freedom, and here's the scary part, freedom in itself creates tremendous responsibility, because now I got nobody and no thing to blame but myself. So it's a scary thing, freedom. And I was shocked when I thought that was the thing I wanted most. And when I got there, I realized, whoa, it's up to me now, how I think, what my attitude is, how I'm going to work this. And then the last segment of those 4, we got the give up, we got the clean up, we got the make up. The last one is the grow up. And here's where the kid starts to balk. If not lovingly brought along with the trinkets, I call them the trinkets, the baubles, to where I can I want to give my analogy. Whatever you're dealing with, whatever I'm dealing with that's hurting me, a behavior, an attitude, whatever I'm dealing with, if I go in there and try to rip that out, it doesn't work. And my analogy is the baby in the playpen, and I look down and I realize that he's gotten his daddy's silver pocket knife off the counter next to it. He's got the blade open. I go over to the playpen. Here he is with this shiny new knife, which he thinks is just great. How many times have you had that knife open in your life and you just think, oh, this is going to be great. Might be the man, might be the job, might be a move, whatever. You can't walk over and grab that knife out of that kid's hand. What's he going to do? He's just going to clamp right back down on it really, really tight. And the same with the scripts. If you're going to go in, I'm going to rip this script out of me. It doesn't seem to work that way. The kid hangs on all the more because it looks so good. But if I go over to that crib and I hold something up that's flashier, might be more interesting, might make a little noise, might have more color to it, that baby is going to drop that knife and reach up for that other object. And that's what we hold in here. That's what we do to the kid. We say, honey, over here, look. You know, we're hanging on to, what is that? We're hanging on to a little statue of the Eiffel Tower, and Paris is waiting for you, you know, and it's like we learn to go in and bedazzle the child with something greater. What's greater? Love. A loving relationship with me, with my higher power, with the God of my understanding. The kid wants nothing more than to come home. Do you have that call in you? I just want to go home. I just want to go home. Yes, you do. Yes, I do. I just want to go home. I've moved all around, but I've always known that wherever I was, that was my home, because my home is right here. But that takes practice, because we've had those shiny pocket knives in our lives looking so darn good out there that we're going to eventually cut us. So we stop reaching for them after a while because there's pain involved. And we finally get away from the fantasy of, oh boy, I know this time I can play with that pocket knife and not get cut. You know, we stop that eventually after we've gotten cut a few times, and we realize God is standing there. Higher power is standing there with open, loving arms, saying, come here, come unto me. I will make you new. I will renew you. The difference in the script steps and the 12 steps, they are not therapeutic steps. They do provide some of that, but they are spiritual steps. And what does that tell me? I have never come up to anything that I wanted to get rid of, that Dulcie could get rid of it. I had to surrender it over. I had to go to God. I had to drop right to my knees and say, left to my own devices, I am stuck here. I can't make this breakthrough. I cannot go any further without the help of God, Spirit, Creator, whatever, source, force, whatever works for you. So we've got these 4 things going that we get to do. We get to give up and surrender, and we get to clean up, and we get to make up, and we get to grow up. And the beautiful part of the make-up steps that aren't necessarily included in the 12 steps is making up to oneself. Now, if you're in Al-Anon working those steps, yes, but most of the focus in the 12 steps rooms has been about cleaning up with other people, the way we've harmed other people. The beautiful part about this kids' steps is how we've harmed ourselves, how we've harmed that little kid, how the kid actually has harmed us. I got to a point where I discovered that I had quite an unruly little brat running around in there. You know, after I picked her up and did all the little teddy bear stuff and you know, took her to movies and we gave her things, you know, and showed her, no, I'm your mommy now. I'm the one that's going to love you. The thing she craved the most from me was loving discipline, and I didn't know that. One of the ways it manifested with me was with food and overeating. And she wanted what she wanted, and I ate myself up to 270 pounds. And that was because my kid was starving. Why was she starving? She was nurturing everybody around her, helping everybody else, but she was starving because what did she want? She wanted approval, she wanted validation, she wanted love, she wanted theirs, and had not gotten it in her home. And even when she did get it, she didn't perceive it correctly. It probably was there, but she didn't hear that. So she wanted that loving and nurturing kindness to herself. Then it got to the point where I also had this little character in there that was going to still have that little, I'm going to get what I want when I want it. And the thing she craved from me the most was loving discipline. You know, not control, not out of fear of what will happen, but loving discipline of, no, honey, that won't work right now. That won't be good for you. This is what we're going to do. And she, you know, I don't know about you, but did you have a hard time getting your kid to trust you? To trust that you were really there for her? That you were really, really going to take care of her? Or was she still looking for a mommy and daddy outside? You know, mine wasn't convinced that I was really going to take care of her till I stopped bringing men into my life that were abusive, until I stopped eating things that were abusive, until I stopped taking her places that were abusive and putting her in, you know, in the harm's way of people that would just trample over her. So I had to have that loving discipline, and of myself, I would not have found it without the help of those steps of writing it down, reading it to somebody else, getting other ideas of how to take care of her. Then I could come to growing up. And the growing up is that part of, no matter what's going on, I get to come back inside, humble myself, surrender to what is, and ask for guidance. And that requires a lot of the 11th step work of listening, listening, listening. And I was taught that God is a gentleman, that he whispers and he never intrudes, and he only enters when I've asked and I've invited. So I can go along on my merry self-will way, you know, until I'm in harm's way again, or not feeling so good about something that didn't work. And then I can turn back, and there's God with those open arms. I'm here all along. I'm here all along. I'm here all along. And I wanted to address the first 3 steps. I think they are, for me, they have been my foundation. I don't care what's in my path. If I drop back into admitting that I'm powerless over blank, neighbor, person, place, situation, broken leg, whatever it is, admitting I'm powerless and cannot manage that myself, and I come to believe there's a power greater, and I get God on the scene, so to speak, and I drop into that, oh yeah, I don't have to. God, here, now. Then I get to make that decision. What's the decision? oh boy, turn my will, my little plans, my life over to the care of God as I understand God. That step is not kidding, and if you're stuck on your inventories, it's because step 3 isn't in place. And I've discovered no matter which step I'm working, whether in the 12th step or in the kids step, if it's not working for me and I'm not getting it worked, it's because the one previous to it isn't in place. So I back up. You know, steps are all about moving usually to a higher level, whether it's coming up out of the basement or you're already out of the basement and out of the gunk and the gook and you've done enough fist steps, you know, on your stuff and you know kind of what the kid's doing and you come up out of the basement and then you might want to come up to another level, then you might want to take the stairs up to the rooftop. Whatever we're doing, steps are for the purpose of lifting us to another level. Coming up closer to spirit, self. Coming up out of the humanhood. Coming up out of the little self and its little plans. But that step 3 is not kidding. I can't make it any further on my investigation or meditation if I'm not firmly planted into making that decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I do or don't understand God. That is the major surrender. That's the give-up steps. And that quote's coming through to me that I love so much from Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln said, "Many a time have I fallen to my knees because I simply had nowhere else to go." You don't hear that quote too much about him. You usually hear the one, Abe says that you're as happy as you make up your mind to be. But you don't hear that humility step. And he was known as a humility leader, or a humble leader rather. And in that humility, when I express it to God, myself, and one other human being, magic happens. Magic happens. This is where the spiritual aspect of the rooms take over. This is where spirit moves in, and we can't think our way out psychologically of these messes that we've created in our little webs. And yes, lifetime after lifetime, we've written that script, projected it out there, it's been reinforced, so every time we come in, there it is again. And no matter what mommy and daddy did to me, it's because they were powerless over reading my script. You know, mine was I would be ignored and treated with indifference. And I don't count, I'm of no value, I don't count, I don't matter. And I grew up in a household where that was, you know, I came in the birth canal not wanting to come in, and my mother had a very hard labor. And my father couldn't stand me because he thought I almost killed his wife. And it was all my fault according to the family story. And you know, when I back up into lifetimes, I find lifetimes where I never felt good enough. I was always in the peasant. You know, I have girlfriends who remember themselves as the queens and princesses and all that. No. I was always down in the trenches, doing the dirty work, being in the kitchen, you know, cleaning up the slop pots. You know, I was always of that peasant stock and had that going, that I have recollection of. Recollection of having frozen and starved to death several different incarnations, one in Leningrad during the 2.5 year siege, different things like that. And I came in not expecting a lot from anybody, and that's exactly what I got. You know, I didn't know that I was coming in and projecting it out, and that these people were doing the best they can. And I'm going to give the one example of a friend of mine discussing perception of whether we were loved or weren't loved as children. I know I didn't feel love. All I remembered was, you're a numbskull, you won't ever amount to anything. Unless you get a man and get married, you haven't got a chance. Those were the programmings of the 50s, when I grew up, you know. My girlfriend, she thought my mother never ever told me she loved me. She's a program person out in the desert. And so she had a daughter. And she made up her mind that she was never going to let this daughter leave the house without her grabbing her and saying, I love you. Because she didn't ever hear it from her mother. So cut to, the girl grows up, hearing this every time she left the house for school or wherever. And my girlfriend thought she was doing a wonderful job. So the girl gets to about her 20s, early 20s, and the therapist calls and says, your daughter wants you to come in for a session. Would you come? And she said, well, of course. So she goes to the session, and the daughter looks straight over at her and says, you never told me you loved me. And my girlfriend broke into tears because she knew that she never heard her mother. If her mother ever said it, she never heard her mother say it any more than this daughter heard her say it. She couldn't believe her ears, but it made her realize that everyone is got their own perception out there of what's going on in your household. I was talking to one of the students the other day about what was received in the family, and when we got down to it, the mother was a rager, and did some pretty rageful things to the children, especially this friend of mine. And then we got to talking, and the mother had her first baby at 15 and had 16 children. And I thought, oh my God, I would have raged too. It's like, it's all about perception. I mean, what woman, if is pregnant every single year for years, has 16 babies, wouldn't be pretty angry, especially having the first one at 15, and her childhood's gone. That's it. Her kid must have been furious, So, what does this bring us to? It brings us to two things: love and compassion. Compassion for those people. I mean, I look back at my mom. My mom didn't mother me. Didn't have much of a mother. She was a child. At 19, she had me. Difficult birth. Couldn't have any more children. Put in the state mental hospital. 40 shock treatments is what they gave her for postpartum blues, is what we call it now. This woman had like 37, 38, I rounded it to 40, but 37, 38 shock treatments for 9 months in this Buffalo State Mental Hospital. Sent home, give her back, 9 months I'm being raised through my grandmother, give her back her baby, and everyone pretended she had never been in the mental hospital. There was no follow-up, there was no therapy. 1944, 1945, the war is on, Pearl Harbor gets bombed. My father, they were 19, now he's like 20, 21, he gets sent to Pearl Harbor. My mother gets left there with me, this baby that we never bonded. Now how do you put any blame on anybody? Whose fault is anything? Conditioning, the times we were raised. Now what do I get to do about all that? I get to clean it up. I get to clean up my perception. I get to come to loving understanding and perception of and compassion for these people that went through this stuff, And just to throw in a little caveat, sugar rationing was lifted that year I was born. And what did they do for babies? There were no plastic pacifiers. Sugar was put into little gauze bags, and they were called sugar tits, and they put them in the babies' mouths. And the message was, don't cry, don't be upset, don't make us upset. Here, have something sweet. So there's no wonder I became a sweetaholic, So I'm just setting up some of the things that came to me, and now you can go back over your own perception of what they did or did not give you, and maybe come to the compassion of why. But at no time do we let down the compassion for our little kid who went through this. But now, whose job is it? It's not that man out there or that woman out there to mother or father us. When you think about it, Barbara Muhl used to talk about how we would take this little kid, and first men that we get in touch with, they're going to fix us. They're going to give us the love we want. They're going to nurture us. And we walk up to them, literally, we walk up to these men and these women, and we say, here's my kid. She's insatiable. She needs love. She needs compassion. Here, you do it. And what's that man going to do? Now, this is all unconscious, you guys, but that's what we do. And we walk up and we get real cute and we get real, if we're just cute enough or sexy enough or good enough or bad or this or that, they're going to give me what my kid needs. And that man is going, oh my God, I can't take care of your kid. How is this guy going to know how to take care of your little girl? And how is this woman going to know how to, take care of that little boy who didn't get the fathering he needed? Oh yeah, she'll mother the guy, and to the point where he can't stand her anymore, just like he couldn't stand his mother. But that woman doesn't know how to give that little guy, the fathering that he needed, the mentoring that a male gives. And the same with those men. They don't know how to mentor a little girl and give her what she needs, Oh, they will to a point to get what they want, but guess what? It all blows up. Because it's everybody's job to raise that kid up through the conditioning, get it to the nurturing, get it to that place where we can sit in the sunlight of the Spirit and receive from the Heavenly Father, from the Heavenly Mother, that love and nurturing our pregnant women need. We just have a pregnant gal here who's going to the bathroom, and I made that comment for those who were on the line. Okay, so that's where we are with these steps, integrating beautifully, integrating to the point of I of my own self am nothing. The bottom line is we have to get to those grow-up steps of love and compassion. How would that be to walk in that person's shoes? Regardless of the choices they make, regardless, can I step back? Can I become detached? And I will read a detachment statement later on. But right now, when Anne comes back, I want to take us all through a guided imagery. Because in order for us to grab our kids up and take care of them and nurture them, we have to have an adult in gear. We have to have a spiritual adult in gear. And otherwise, we can't take care of that kid because, there'd be one kid trying to take care of another kid with all their anger and resentments and well, I didn't get this and I didn't get that and where's mine and where they got more and, no. So the first thing we're gonna do, so those in telephone land, can you all hear me okay? I think you can. Otherwise, you would have stepped. Okay.
Sounds great.
Perfect.
I can hear you great. This is wonderful.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I wanted this workshop to be experiential, not just information. But that's the foundation, and then you guys all have your own stories behind your birthing and your different lifetimes here and your scripts and your dialogue. And I think most of you have been through the script class to where you know the way you find your script is by listening to what the dialogue is saying when the event is happening. And if you can't find the dialogue, you have to back away from the person and go within to listen, to hear. If the dialogue is saying, you will never be good enough, you will always be misunderstood, or I am always left behind, I will always be abandoned, all of those little dialogue pieces are what helps us find the script. And once we find it, we get the adult in gear, and that adult then takes us through understanding and hopefully showing us a different perception. And if we can't do it ourselves, we take it to another. Remember, the 5th step in the 12 steps is God, myself, and one other human being. So we're going to go, and before we can go work with our kid in a guided meditation, we're going to work with our spiritual adult, and we're going to go in and find it so that we know the difference. So there's characteristics to the spiritual adult, and two of the ones that come to my mind is the compassion and love. And compassion is probably the highest on the charts of humanity that we can find. And Mother Teresa had the high level of compassion to where she could do the nursing and mending up not just the brokenhearted, but the bandaged up the wounded with those sores and the lepers and all of that she was able to do, because right there, regardless of the appearance, is God's perfect child screaming out for recognition of its divinity. So if everyone would just take a deep breath and put your pens and pads away, and we're going to go in, and we're going to take a little journey down a walk. Picture a garden path, and we're going to walk along as a little child would, noticing the butterflies, noticing the flowers, noticing the beauty of the garden. We're going to walk along, seeing the little critters running about and the birds flitting, the sunlight coming down through the leaves, shaking, quaking a little bit. It's a beautiful day. It's a paradise. It's the paradise that we know we belong in every day. We gently walk along, and all of a sudden we stumble on a stone, and we fall down, and we begin to cry. And we can't seem to get up. It's disappointed us so much, and we're feeling sad. And we cry out for help. And an image comes up to you which is your spiritual adult, comes to help you up. It could take many forms. It could take the form of a guardian angel. It could take the form of a sponsor, or a mother that was loving, or a father that was loving. But an image of what a spiritual adult would look like that came to pick that little child up, dust it off, kiss the boo-boo, and embrace it into its arms. What would that spiritual adult look like? There would be no criticism of why weren't you watching where you were going. There would be nothing but unconditional love and acceptance of that child's injury. And that spiritual adult, actually your soul faculty, who's always there waiting to embrace and pick you up out of whatever fall you may have just had, with complete compassion and knowing that this human path is not an easy one, and the spiritual path is simple but not easy, and it takes continued surrender, laying it down, asking the Father within, asking the Christ consciousness, asking the nurturer for help and love, kindness, compassion, understanding, helpfulness. Those things we've always craved and couldn't get from another human being, whether it was mommy or daddy, or Mr. Wonderful or Miss Princess Divine. Feel the love. Feel the arms around you. Receptivity of this spiritual higher self who never leaves you, is always there. But upon recognition, it's the Christ, it's the Buddha, it's the Master Healer, it's the 100% forgiver of all that has come through, all that has passed, all that is, and all that will come to be. Never, never, never does it leave you. For it is I, the I am, the I am that I am, right there, where you are, moment by moment. We have access to all that spiritual help to wake us up out of the dream, out of anything we think we've created in the negative nature for ourselves. Come home. Come here. Come unto me, little child. Awaken to the now. Drop the story. Drop the misperception. Drop all guilt, all shame. Such an illusion. You no longer need those survival tools. Let them go. The verdict is in. You are not guilty. Stay in the healing arms and hear the whisperer say, "Behold, I make all things new." It's a promise. Feel that presence encompassing you. You can taste it. You can touch it. You can see it with your mind's eye. You can feel the love, but only always, always the love. Peace, my child. It is I. But there's one more step, and that is to open out that same love and offer it to the world, to the mean next door neighbor, to those acting out who are asleep. That same spiritual adult that comes into gear to rescue our kid, comes into gear to understand those around us being asleep. If they knew better, they would do better. And at all times, no matter what it is, they or we are either awake to spirit or we are asleep. No condemnation, no criticism, no blame. Simple. Oh, they're asleep. Let me pour more love their way. And there is your spiritual adult. Always in the now moment. Never in the story. Never in the drama. Always. Open heart in the now. And we're held. And we're loved. Receive. Always in the stillness. Be still and know that I am God. I will make the crooked places straight. I go before you. But allow. And we let go, and we let God. And we let God be God.